Hey everybody, we're so happy for you to join us today for our second session of the entrepreneurial aspect of the book publishing project. We're here at McGoffin County High School. Everyone say hi. Hey, we are here today to bring you the information you need to prepare for the book signing on the 12th. And if you've been following along with us so far, in the first session we gave a general overview of all the things that we're going to be covering. Some of those that we're going to be focusing on today is going to be looking at the actual cost for your book and what's it mean to have a profit on those. Secondly is your table display, the materials that you may consider preparing and creating for the summit. And then we're going to talk a little bit also about social media and presenting an image on social media for your book. And then also where we're going to hopefully go from here leading up for their third session on Thursday. So first of all, I do want to touch on the cost for the books. I've had some questions to come in about setting the cost and where it should be in relation to how much your book costs. Generally speaking, if you were to double your money, that's where you want to be. So for instance, if your book costs $2 a copy to print, so if let's pretend this is my book, and this book costs $2 to print. So when you call Minutemen Press in London and you tell them, hello, my name's Chris Epling, I need to order more copies of my book, Noah's Ark, and that's how this works. You call them and tell them that. And they say, okay, how many copies would you like to order? And you look at the invoice that we have available on Google Drive, you can see how it falls. So 25 to 50 copies cost X amount. 50 copies to 75 cost a different amount. The more books you order, the less it costs to print. Okay? So let's say you call them up and you're setting a price for your book for the summit. To determine that, if your book costs $2, then typically it would be a good idea for your book to sell for around $8. Okay? Between $6 and $8. You can set the price sometimes a little higher than that, but you have to be careful because the first set of books that you're receiving, they are paper-bound books, okay? So the books are going to be paper-bound, saddle-stitched books. In printing, there's two types of binding. Well, there's all kinds of binding, but two examples of binding is what's called perfect bound, which is where it's encased with glue, and there's a cover attached, the paper is all inside, and there's a glue-bound spine. Then there's something called saddle-stitched, which is where they insert staples. Okay, most paper-bound books are either perfect-bound or saddle-stitched. Now the reason we did not go with perfect-bound for our books is there has to be a certain page count in order for this to work. So for instance, the perfect bound spine of a book requires at least 30 pages in order for it to hold. Anything less than 30 pages, the glue won't hold it and your pages will simply just fall out of the book. Okay, so that's why we went with the saddle stitch. The second reason we're doing paper bound, and we talked about this before we started, the cost to produce a hardbound version of your book is so much more than it costs to produce a paper-bound version of your book. Okay, that's obvious, right? Because the materials are different and so on. There are going to be some students who participate out of the 22 that will be there on the 12th that will simply sell the books they have available to them and then keep the money. That's it. They're done. We know that. Even, and I dare to say, some of the students participating the 12 in the entrepreneurial part will just take the money and they'll be done. That's not what we want to see though. But we are aware that's probably going to happen with a few students. Because of that, we are not going to print hardbound versions of a book. It's simply the cost is too high, and we understand some students will not pursue it further. So that's the reasons. So each student will receive, 25 copies minus KVEC has to keep 2 copies back. So it'll be between 22 and 23 copies that you receive to sell. All right? Out of those 22 to 23 copies that you receive to sell, setting your price should be determined, as I said, at least double to triple what the book costs to print. So if a book costs $2, you should set the cost of that between $6 and $8. Okay? If you set it any higher than that, it's going to be too much. People will not buy it. But have a fair estimate of the cost for your book. Now, I've made available through the Google Drive an invoice for the for the books that we're printing. What you'll need to do, you'll need to go to the holler.org, where we've all been before, we've all registered, we're all familiar, and you need to look for the most recent post on there. When you see that, click on Read More, because it does not show the entire post thread. Inside of that thread that I've just written last week, you'll see a link to the Google Drive folder. Click on that. Inside of that folder, you're going to see an example of every single book cover for the project, okay? So that means every single book cover is inside of the Holler through a Google Drive link. Find your copy of your book, download or save your book cover. That's what you're going to need to create material for the summit. Also in that folder is an invoice. When you open the invoice, you're going to see different costs for different books. Some are higher to print, some are lower. That depends on page count and color. Black and white books are easier to print. They're cheaper to print than color copies. Find the invoice and look for your book. When you see the book title that belongs to you, look and find how much it costs to print it. That's going to help you determine how much you need to sell your book for. Okay? That's very important. Also, setting up in terms of your cost, every book, if you've noticed, if you like to read, even if you don't like to read, if you've ever looked at a book closely enough, you're going to know that on a book, if you flip it over and look on the back, there's a barcode, okay, down at the bottom. Barcodes are on everything. Barcodes can be scanned, and it tells consumer information about that product, okay? Books are no different. From apples to books, there's barcodes now, all right? This barcode will be inserted on your book at a later date after you determine the cost and if you do more printing, okay? I want to say that again. The first copies of your book do not have a barcode for the reason that the students need to determine the cost. If you order more books, it's a simple process of me sending the barcode to the printer for you with the cost of your book on that, okay? Now, those moving forward, printing more copies of their book, as I said, you'll call Minuteman Press in London, Kentucky. The information's provided on the Holler for the contact information. You tell them your name, the title of your book, and you tell them how many copies you want, and they tell you how much you need to send them in order to do that. How that works is you send them first a down payment. So whatever the cost is to print, let's say you're going to print 25 copies. Okay, let's say it costs you $80 to print 25 copies. That's just a number. You'll have to send them $40, and then they print the books, and when the books are finished, they let you know, and then you send them the rest of the remaining balance, okay? So that's how that works. Now let's talk a little bit about profit. Profit in business, in small business, is real simple, okay? Whatever money that you have left over after you sell a product, minus the cost that associated with producing that product, is your profit, okay? So if we do, I'm terrible at math. I'm absolutely horrendous at math, but we'll try a little bit here, okay? Let's say our books cost $2 a piece, right? All right, we're going to order 10 copies. And let's say, so it's 20 bucks, right? $20. Let's say we set the cost of these books, though, at $8 a piece. So how much is that if we sell all 10? 80 bucks, right? 80 minus 20 is 60. That's our profit. That's how you determine profit. So you take the $60 and you go buy more books. And you continue this process over and over and over. And then eventually, down the road, if you want, and once you've acquired enough profit, you can move from a paper-bound copy to a hardbound copy, and that's how that works, okay? So after you've sold enough books and you've acquired enough profit, you can move from a paper-bound copy to a hardbound copy of your book. Okay, I'm glad we're clear on that. Let's move in now to the table display. And if you notice, I've got a few things here on the table, and we're going to talk about presenting your book to the folks walking by at the summit, okay? At the summit, you're going to be at folding tables, all right, with a skirt on it. So that means there's going to be a draped over the front will be a black skirt, okay, that covers the tables. You're going to have the width of approximately these two students here, distance between each other to sell books, okay? So if you have an author and an illustrator, this is about how much distance you have. So you can say if you teamed up on a book and you have an author and an illustrator working on that book, then you're going to have more room at the front of your table. So that's something to think about. Had some questions to come in. How much space will I have in the front to hang posters that we create? So this gives you sort of an idea. It's about 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet, okay, that you're going to have. Also on top of your table, you're going to need to think about what you can present so people when they walk by can see it. And I've brought some examples for that. Okay, first of all, we have an easel here. We're going to try to provide for each book an easel for your book to stand on, so that we've got that covered. If you want to purchase an additional easel, you can. They're at Walmart, different stores carry these. They're real cheap. Buy a couple of easels. You don't only present your book on there, and the book I'm presenting here is Sarah Kincaid's Spring and September. She's actually a teacher at Belford High School. So not only do you present your book with one of these, but you can also present any materials that you print, such as this. This is an example of a cardboard stand sign. This was created at Staples. You don't have to go with Staples. You can do this at Walmart or other places, but there's a foam backing to this. They'll actually do this for you. We're supplying each school with $150 for the students to use for these printing costs. Okay. Now, let's say you're at Valley Elementary, okay, where we have Mahala Honaker. Okay, one student there is all that's going to be using the money for the $150. So she's going to be able to do a lot. Whereas compared to McGoffin County High School, we have a few students. So I understand that was a question that came up through an email about that. But we need to roll with that. That's what we have, and that's plenty enough to prepare the materials that you need. Okay. So each school receives $150. Not each student participating. So I want to be real clear on that. How that works is the school needs to go ahead and purchase the items, and then they can bill or send an invoice to KVEC, and we'll reimburse whatever materials were used in the project. Okay. So how do you prepare a sign like this? Now, there's different ways to do that. Of course, those who are familiar with Photoshop is going to be have an advantage, but you don't need to have familiarity with that software to create a sign. If you have just your book image, which I've made available for you on the Google Drive link, you could take that, save that to a thumb drive, take that to Staples, and you could print this in a larger scale to put on an easel. Other examples that I have here, business cards, which we talked a little bit about. Business cards can be printed. You can actually produce these pretty cheaply at Walmart and Staples and stores like that. They don't cost a lot to print. The information that you provide on your business card should keep it to all the stuff related to your book. So let's say if you have created, like we talked about, an email for your book, then that should go in your business card. And especially if you've created a website for your book, some schools who have computer classes at their high school have done that in the past for students, then that should be included on your business card. Other materials that we have, for an example, is what we call a one sheet. Now, this was printed by Chrissy Walters at Belfry. It's just on a typical 8.5 by 11 piece of copying paper. She ran these off in her school printer. And on this, she has a photo and a bio. That's something we'd love to see students share in the project is a bio about themselves, where you're from, your interest, who you are, your age, grade, things like that. Also, a summary of her book. So she has the bio at the top with her picture, a summary of her book with the book's cover beside of it, and at the bottom she even has an acknowledgement. So she thanks some folks. If you notice down at the bottom here, below her book cover, is the example of Chrissy's logo. So this is her business logo. Last session we talked about that, and I'd ask each student leading up to this session to think about a business name and to create a business logo. Those are things that we want you to use with your product and on your materials. So promotional items such as bookmarks. Students created bookmarks last year to hand out. On the bookmark, different things you can put on there. You can put a character from your book, but also be sure to include your business logo and name on everything that you create, okay? That's really important. We want the consumer, which is the person who's buying your product, when they approach your display and they look at your product, to see and be familiar with your business and your business name and logo, okay? That's really important, okay? This is something that Sarah Kincaid has prepared, and I think this is a really cool idea. This is actually a postcard. Now, with creating postcards, there's certain things you have to be familiar with. I understand. Knowing Photoshop or some sort of program where you can do this, only helps you. But what she's done is she has her cover of her book, so you can see that matches. That's the cover of her book here. And then on the back, she has a line separating, typical postcard format. And on the side over here, she has all the information Chrissy does on her postcard. So her bio and a summary and additional information on where you can contact Sarah to find copies of her book online, okay? Now I'm just showing you these as examples to give you ideas. Also, now this is really important. Another point that I wanted to talk about today is social media, okay? We all know how important social media is in getting the word out about different things, events, let's say just products in general, okay? So I would like to see you create, if you can, a social media link for your work. So a Facebook page or an Instagram account. When you do that though, this is very important. Creating a proper business image, okay? You're getting ready to become small business owners. So creating a proper business image is very important. Now there's stuff that you place on your personal Facebook page that you would never put on your business Facebook page, right? So think about this in terms of whatever you would want to see if you went to a business website. That's the type of things you need to place on yours, such as when you do an event. So leading up to the summit, okay, you would promote that, let people know my first book signing will be here, who, what, when, where. Also take pictures of your product, or maybe just post pictures of your book cover to start out. Let people know that you have a book, the title of your book. You can start out by telling folks a little bit about your book. Okay, you could post a summary about your book. All these things are important in informing the consumer that there's a product out there. If a consumer aren't aware that you have this, then they're not looking to purchase anything. So a proper social media, what's the word I'm looking for? Your appearance. That's it. Okay, a proper social media appearance is important. Don't post anything about how you're feeling that day. If you're having a bad mood, don't post anything for what you had for lunch. If it's not about your product, don't post it. Okay. So that moves us then into, now think about this. We're building a platform here. We're thinking about a business name and logo, which we should have already done based on last week. All right. We're getting access now to our graphics, so we already have our book cover. We're thinking about the cost of our book. We're creating social media links for our work, okay? And then that leads us then into press release, informing the public even more about what's happening with your product. Now, a press release in journalism is a document that tells who, what, when, and where, that is sent out to media resources. So TV, newspaper, radio, etc. Okay? Leading up to this summit, I want to challenge each student to create a press release. And I'd like for you to send that along with a picture of your book and a picture of yourself to your local newspaper. Okay? I want you to start on that right now. Basically, let the newspaper or TV or radio know that you're who you are and what your book is about, and that you'll be doing a book signing April 12th at the Expo Center. Be sure, now this is very important, if you put this information out, you want to let them know exactly why you're there. And why you're there is because of the Fire Summit. Okay? F-I-R-E, all capitalized, Summit. And that's with KVAC. So you will say in your press release for your wear at the Expo Center in Pikeville, Kentucky on April 12th. Okay? And the what will be your product, and that it's for the Fire Summit from KVAC. Okay? That's really important to include those things in your press release. Leading up from here, what I'd like to talk to you too about is about resilience. I was at a book signing this past Saturday in Powell County, and a new author that I worked with, and I feel comfortable talking about this because I'm pretty sure they won't see it. Hopefully they won't, but if they do, it's okay. I'll try to word this in a polite way. They went to this is about their third book signing, and they did not sell as many books as they thought. Okay, they should sell. They approached me very, very upset, and they basically said, I'll never come back to Powell County to sign books again. Now, in comparison to my first experience there, she sold about as many as I did. And in conversation with other authors who have went there before, she sold about average of what you expect to sell as a first-time author at this book signing. Now, that's no way to approach anything with business. Having an attitude of giving up is not going to get you anywhere, okay? There's a lot of things we're asking you to do. But if you break it down and you do one each week, the different assignments sort of that we're asking you to do each week, then leading up to the summit, you're going to be in great shape. So if you've already created your business logo, you've thought of a business name, and you've set a cost for your book leading up to this session, then you're okay, right? If you haven't, then get on the ball today and do this, right? Leading up to next session, what I want you to do is create a press release to send out to your local newspaper. If you want to send that out to radio and even television, that's fine too, but at least your newspaper, okay? And also on top of that is to start creating materials that you will use for your table using the money that we made available to you. Okay, that's the assignment this week. Thursday, when we conduct our third session, we're going to have a couple more tasks for you to do leading up to the summit. Okay, so I know that's a lot to chew on right now, but if you, like I said, if you just use this as building blocks each week and check off what we're asking you to do, you're going to be in great shape. Okay, and remember, those of you with questions about the book, you start out with paper bound. You sell enough copies, earn enough profit. With that profit, you can then one day start to order hardbound. Okay. This Thursday, we're going to be talking about how to get more events after the initial book signing. How do you establish more book signings for the future, and making your book available online so people can buy it and they don't have to be in person to do it. Okay. The question that came in about other things to bring to sale. You can bring original art to sell if you want for the book signing. That's no problem. Authors do that all the time. I just brought this little example of these dinosaurs that I drew that have their classification, time period, era, and all that stuff at the top because I like dinosaurs a lot. That's no other reason I have these. But if you want to bring something related to your book, characters from your book that you've drawn to sell, that's fine. There's no problem with that. Okay. Any questions from McLaughlin County? No? If you have a question, please go to theholler.org underneath the posting that for this video. Ask your questions there, or you can email me directly at Epling. It's EPLING Illustrations. So it's Epling Illustrations, all one word, at gmail.com. So everybody okay? Great. Okay. Thank you again. I hope you're enjoying this process, and good luck. And I'll talk to you Thursday. Bye.